Genesis playing there. Close that window. Let's see if I can get this.
Don't forget to plug Mike's old mic in.
Okay, remove this.
Excuse me, sir, would you mind getting out of your train of thought? What? Where's the big idea, sir? Oh, I'm sorry, officer, I don't understand. I was thinking. Yeah, your mind was wandering all over the place. May I see your degree, please? Sure, here. Take it out of the frame. Sorry. It's a community college learner's permit. You need a BA to drive the...
Okay, is your mic on?
No.
Okay, let's see if we got it.
Plug in.
Okay, well that, I guess that is us. Let's, how do I bring the chat room over here?
Will you write down the instructions?
What's that?
Write down the instructions. There he is.
Got going on.
Well, we're on here, but I'm trying to bring the chat room up. Now we got instructions down here, but here we go. All right. Webcast. Let's see. Let's shrink this down. We're doing all that. We're live streaming. Classic live streaming. Alright, we need to set up software. Chat room. Okay.
Sneak past you. Hit this button here. Not that one. Go down. Let me drive it for a second.
There we go.
Hit done. The chat's right there.
Okay. So right there they are. We already got one in.
Hit those three right there. See them? Not that one there. Alright, don't worry about that. The chat room's right there.
Okay. They're coming. Okay, folks. Now that Jason's not here, but Mr. T is back, we want to turn the radio down in the background, our monitor there. I'd like a sound information from you folks. If you can send me a chat telling me how we sound. I may have to move, well, that don't want to stay, so I guess I'm going to have to move up. Get that right in front of my face. There we go. Now, anyway, let's say, said hi, Mr. T, so they apparently must be hearing us.
Hi. Emily? Yeah, I guess
Hold up. I can see everybody.
Yeah, no, that's all right. We don't need to see everybody. They will. And Bones, the bludgeoner, is here. So, anyhow, folks, Mr. T's here. Maybe we'll have a little more livelihood because he and I have worked together, or we have worked together in the past. And I'm going to take that out. And so...
You can't make that chat come up to the...
Yeah, I can make the chat come up.
Well, you're in the... No, I said, move the chat up by the You can see us and the chat at the same time. I don't know
Yeah,
if you do that.
I don't know how we do that. We've done the checklist. Do not show these tips again. There we go. Okay, folks. We still learning. And we're still working on a couple of things. Jason is working on to find out how we can get our conference call in. Okay, because one of our listeners got us a conference call account. And so she got us a number and the password, but we haven't figured out how to put it into the computer so we can talk. But okay, folks, the background noise is partially the same thing as before, I do believe, and that would be the fan on both the radio and the other fan, unless there's something that's broadcasting besides that. There's a lot of UR 5x5, so mics are good. Mr. T, did you get the bear? Last week when you weren't here and we were on, they said,
I know. I read the comments later on that.
yeah,
I know.
they were afraid the bear got you.
I just pulled the camera cards before getting here, so I got to check
Yeah.
them and see if
Okay.
he's been around the house recently.
Yeah, if there's any other kind of background noise other than what sounds like a fan running, let me know, but that's...
If we close the cabinet, it sounds a little bit.
Well, that would shut it, but I had it open because I had it open so it would keep it cool on those real hot days. Might have to put something in front of it there, Randy. Bones.
Oh, Lord almighty.
Yeah, poor kid's gotta work. So anyhow, we's back. We're gonna get started here shortly. Well, Mr. T, you've been gone. We've been gone for a long time. You've been gone for a long time. You got anything you want to open up with?
Yeah,
Other than with a tank and a semi-truckload of ammo for it?
I still can't believe Mike is gone.
Yeah, that is tough. I feel a hole in my life because he and I were like father and son. Even when we were not on the air, the way we were on the air was the way we were in real life. Even if we were traveling to a gun show, something would come up and we would just start raiding on it. There's many a times we said, wish we had a tape recorder to record some of the stuff we said, because it's some of the best stuff we've done. So anyway, that's the scoop and that. So how'd your party go last night there, Randall? You look like you're about ready to fall asleep. Are you suffering any hangovers?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, we didn't bring anything. If you go up, Grandma will give you a bottle of rum.
I don't need it more alcohol.
Okay. They always say the best thing to cure a hangover is take a bite of the dog that bit you.
Well, that's never worked for me.
Uh,
It's only made things worse.
No, it's the fans, whatever that meant. I do believe that's where the noise is. If you want, you can turn that other one off. I don't think it's making as much noise. And we're trying to quiet it down as much as we can. But because of the cost of the equipment and the fact that puts out so much heat, we unfortunately have no way of silencing it. But if it was a real big-time studio, that transmitter would have been in another room completely sealed off from us, and then we wouldn't have that noise. But we're not big-time. We're not even little time. So Yeah, I know I need something to drink, but I've had a tough weekend. This week I was up at the new undisclosed location, and I was replacing some windows in my son's camp, and I have to admit, I got all the windows in. Now I have to go up and just put the paneling on the walls and close them all up. Boy, these are nice and slick moving windows. And so, anyway, where should we go from here? To keep my voice from failing, or should we do something before we start into the stories of some of the shit that's going on this week? You think we ought to do something about the Constitution of the United States? To start with the Declaration of Independence. Let me find it here, and there it is. Bung, would you like to read that?
I suppose.
Turn your mic on.
There we go.
There we go. Okay, this is the words of wisdom spoken by Bones, words of our forefathers. Yeah.
More alcohol.
Here, more liquor, please.
More liquor. When in the course of human events, it becomes necessary for one people to dissolve the political bands which have connected them with another, and to assume among the powers of the earth the separate and equal station to which the laws of nature and the nature of God entitle them. A decent respect to the opinions of mankind require that they should declare the causes which impel them to the separation. We hold these truths to be self-evident, that all men are created equal, and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. That to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. And whenever any form of government becomes destructive of these ends, it is the right of the people to alter or abolish it, and to institute new government, laying its foundations on such principles and organizing its powers in such forms as to them shall seem most likely to affect their safetiness and happiness. Prudence indeed will dictate that governments long established should not be changed for light and transient causes, and accordingly all experience hath shewn that
Shown? Maybe the word shown?
I don't know as if that. Moving on, we'll just skip that.
That just shows you what the public school system teaches you how to
Oh,
read.
hogwash. I know how to read halfway decent if it's from this century.
Well, you got to learn to read from the past century, so you know why we were here.
That mankind are more disposed to suffer, while evils are sufferable than to right themselves by abolishing the forms to which they are accustomed. But when a long train of abuses and usurpations pursuing invariably by the object invices a design to reduce them under absolute despotism, well, that's a fun word, it is their right, it is their duty to throw off such government and to provide new guards for their future security. Such has been patient sufferance of these colonies, and such is now the necessity which constrains them to alter their former systems of government. The history of the present king in Great Britain is a history of repeated injuries and usurpations, all having indirect object the establishment of absolute tyranny over these states. To prove this, let the facts be submitted to a candid world. He has refused the assent to laws, the most wholesome and necessary for the public good. He has forbidden his governors to pass laws of immediate and pressing importance unless suspended in their operation till his assent should be obtained. And where was that? In their operation till his assent should be obtained. And one so suspended, he has utterly neglected to attend to them. He has refused to pass the laws for the accommodation of large districts of people unless those people would relinquish the right of representation in the legislature, a right inestimable. Holy shit.
No, it's not holy shit.
Inestimable to them and formidable to tyrants only. He has called together legislative bodies at places unusual, uncomfortable, and distant from the depository of their public records for the sole purpose of fatiguing them into compliance with his measures. It's all just a mouthful. Jeez.
Well, they were educated men. They had the 50-cent dictionary way before we did.
He has dissolved representative houses repeatedly for opposing with manly firmness. Manly firmness. His invasions on the rights of the people, he has refused for a long time after such disillusion to cause others to be elected, whereby the legislative powers incapable of annihilation have returned to the people at large for their exercise. The state remaining in the meantime exposed to all the dangers of invasion from without, convulsions within. He has endeavored to prevent the population of these states for that purpose obstructing the laws for the naturalization of foreigners, refusing to pass others to encourage the migration hither, and raising conditions of new appropriations of land. He has obstructed the administration by refusing his assent to the laws for establishing judiciary powers. He has made judges dependent on his will alone, and for the tenure of their offices and the amount of payment of their salaries. He has erected a multitude of new offices and sent hither swarms of officers to harass our people and eat our substance. He has kept among us in times of peace standing armies without the consent of the legislature. He is affected to render the military independent of and superior to the civil power. He is combined with other subjects us to a jurisdiction foreign to our Constitution and unacknowledged by our laws, giving his assent to their acts of pretended legislation, for quartering large bodies of armed troops among us, for protecting them by mock trial and punishment for any murders which they should commit on the inhabitants of these states, for cutting off trade with all parts of the world, for imposing taxes on us without our consent, for depriving us in many cases of benefits of trial by jury, for transporting us beyond seas to be tried for pretended offenses, for abolishing the free system of English law in the neighboring province, establishing therein an arbitrary government and enlarging its boundaries so as to render it at once an example and fit instrument for inducing the same absolute rule into these colonies, for taking away our charters, abolishing our most valuable laws, and altering fundamentally the forms of our governments, for suspending our own legislatures and declaring themselves invested with the powers to legislate for us in all cases whatsoever. He has abdicated government here by declaring us out of his protection and waging war against us. He has plundered our seas, ravaged our coasts, burned our towns, destroyed our lives of our people. He is at this time transporting large armies of foreign mercenaries to complete, that's not the right spelling of that, complete the works of death, desolation, and tyranny, already begun with circumstances of cruelty and scarcely paralleled in the most barbarous ages, and totally unworthy of the head of a civilized nation. He has constrained our fellow citizens, taken captive on high seas, to bear arms against their country, and to become the executioners of their friends and brethren, or to fall by themselves by their hands. He has excited domestic insurrections amongst us, and has endeavored to bring on the inhabitants of our frontiers, these merciless, barbarous Indian savages, whose known rule of warfare is an undistinguished destruction of all ages, sexes, and conditions. In every stage of these oppressions, we have petitioned for redress in the most humble of terms. Our repeated petitions have only been answered by repeated injury. A prince whose character is thus marked by every act which may define a tyrant is unfit to be the ruler of a free people, nor have we been wanting in attentions to our British brethren. We have warned them from time to time of attempts by legislature to extend an unwarranted jurisdiction over us. We have reminded them of the circumstances of emigration and settlement here. We have appealed to their native justice and magnanimity. We have conjured them by the ties of our common kindred to disavow these usurpations, which would inevitably interpret our connections and correspondence. They have been deaf to the voice of justice, and we must therefore acquiesce in the necessity which denounces our separation, and hold them as we hold the rest of mankind, enemies in war, in peace friends. We therefore, the representatives of the United States of America and General Congress, assembled, appealing to the Supreme Judge of the world for the rectitude of our intentions, do in name and by authority of the good people of these colonies, solemnly publish and declare that these united colonies are of right and ought to be free and independent states, and that they are absolved from any and all allegiance to the British Crown, and that all political connection between them and the state of Great Britain is ought and to be totally dissolved, and that free and independent states as free and independent states they have full power to levy war, conclude peace, contract alliances, establish commerce, and to do all other acts and all things which independent states may have the right to do. And for the support of this declaration, with a firm reliance on the protection of the divine providence, we mutually pledge to each other our lives, our fortunes, and our sacred honor.
Amen.
That's all she wrote.
Amen. Now, I see on the chat here from cannabis, and our forefathers went to war for this, and we endure 10 times that despotism. Okay, you got any comments about that? What you read, Bones?
Well, not really. It's a Declaration of Independence.
Yeah. That's what kicked the British out of our country. Started our war for independence. You got any comments or insights, Mr. T?
I think for the most part, in school, kids are dumbed down. They don't know real history.
Is your mic on?
Again,
Is your mic on?
Over decades, kids have been dumbed down. Too many socialists in teaching schools at the grade school level, high school, universities, and they teach nothing but lies. And basically, man has been subdued. He's lost. He's more a pack animal going with the crowd, and where it's safer than to start a revolution. And that's why what's going on now is that we're just, okay, yeah, let's hear some more. What are you going to do to us now that we can, maybe still live with and not resist? But one of these days, something's going to snap. When it does, hell's going to break loose.
Now, unfortunately, people can only be pushed so far. Are we reaching that limit?
I think so.
I think so. How soon is it going to pop? I think the very crucial time period will be after the Democrats have settled what idiot they're going to run for president and the campaign season starts, that we're going to be in a very dangerous time cycle to go from the preliminary elections in May, June, depending on where you're at, to the
Primaries.
to the general election in November. And depending on what the outcome is, either way, we have some real tough situations coming at us because unfortunately these socialists have gained enough control they think they have gained enough control of the minds of our general public that 38% of our population is endorsing socialism. And like we said on the show last week, socialism is only a polite word for communism. And when you have one candidate who I shall not name because his name was Bernie Sanders, I wouldn't want to slander him, who has told the UN that it's time for the UN to go into these third world countries and remove the excess population. If you think back to the 30s and the 40s, there was a man that was doing that. But only he wasn't picking on the excess population. He was getting rid of all the mentally ill, the physically handicapped, and the Jews and other races of people for whatever reason. And supposedly to create a pure blood Aryan race. Oh, gee. Were we talking about Nazi Germany?
Yeah.
No. I would, that's history. Nobody wants to know what history is. And we don't want to teach it in school.
Of course, at the same time, across to the east from Berlin, we had Uncle Joe Stalin, who was eliminating Ukrainians by starvation and, actually eliminating anybody who stood against him.
Yeah.
Either kill them outright, starve them to death, or send them to this.
And he always was purging the
gulags.
officer corps of his military.
Oh, yeah.
And
And I think, I read somewhere, I think it was 200, he had 238 generals executed because they displeased him. Now, I'm not sure that includes before and during World War II or during World War II. In fact, there's some generals he didn't like some of the gulags and had to, oh wait, we need you.
yeah, bring him back out. You're back in good graces.
Yeah.
And then in China, you had the Japanese doing mass executions of the Chinese. Also in the Philippines, when they were doing mass executions, especially in the big cities to kill off the population. And then we had Pol Pot down in Cambodia, and then was Idi Amin doing the same thing in Uganda when he was there to a lesser extent?
He was killing all people too.
Yeah, and then we also had the purging of the in Chechnya in Europe here just within the last 20 years. Anyway.
Getting back to what you were saying about the election, and I read it, and unfortunately, my mom-in-law in the hospital forwarded the mail to her. But there was something that was put out, and I can't remember who it was, that Democrats have a plan that in 2020, they're hoping to win at least both houses of Congress. Okay, they got the House now. Let's get the Senate. And if they get the presidency, even better. But they're going to try to he would come up with a law that would require the Army in particular to start house searches and confiscation of weapons. Now they have a Democratic president. That'd be easier if Trump gets reelected. Then they go, okay, we're gonna override his veto and force the Army in particular to go out and do house searches, arrest all those people who didn't give up their guns, kill those that resist. 2020, 2021, I mean, could be the pivotal years here for a lot of things to happen. The Democrats gain both houses, or even both houses and the presidency. I talk show host down my way a few days ago. He's a Democrat, and over the years, he was an Obama supporter, and then became not an Obama supporter. He became a Trump supporter, and he is concerned now that people are only voting for one issue. In fact, he had to call in, a guy called in, who said the only thing he's interested in is improving his health care. And he likes Bernie Sanders because he likes what Bernie Sanders said about health care. So he's going to vote for him. Nothing else matters to this guy other than health care. So he's going to vote for Bernie Sanders. That's a dumb move. Really. Bernie Sanders is basically, socialist, almost communist. In fact, anyway, I think I did listen to the last debate. Frankly, I think all of them are communists, really. They want to, take their guns, especially Mr. Beto O'Rourke, who I know as Francis.
Yeah, Beto.
In fact, and the other day, or not yesterday, sorry, I read, I can't remember the name of the company down in Arizona, but the gun shop in Arizona is offering AR-15s as Beto specials, selling them, basic AR-15 for maybe $400. And they said they can't keep the stock, keep rifles in stock, and people buy them.
Yeah, speaking of that, since you brought that up,
That leads into yours.
it leads to this story. It's funny how those things happen. Almost as if we had it planned. Here it is. Here it is. I didn't print out the whole thing because once you go through the beginning of it, there's not much to say afterwards. The leading indicator of gun sales jumped in August, driven in part by the Americans seeking self-protection and deep concerns. Congressional Democrats are going to push through expanded gun control legislation. The overall number of background checks recorded in the National Instant Criminal Background Check System surged 15.5%, said the National Shooting Sports Foundation. That figure includes background checks done for security, concealed carry permits, gun sales, and the highest August number ever recorded.
Now, I wonder what is going to come on a show in September because of the Democratic.
Yeah, I'm waiting to see what happens with after the series of debates is done in September.
There's a war going. We are coming after your guns. We're going to, buy back mandatory buyback program. You will.
I still run into so many people that tell me that, they won't do that, they can't do it. I tell them, just because they can't does not mean they aren't going to try. They're going to try. The can't comes in is when they go to try, you shoot the bastards. Okay? That's when they can't. So, my opinion is, or my thing is, all these Democrats who want to take our guns, you be leading the charge. You in person come with them to confiscate the guns. See how many you get.
Actually, I read out on Facebook this morning. So somebody did post that under one of the articles about O'Rourke. He goes, "How many? Are you or the other Democrat politician or president? You guys going to be the first one in the file? We're knocking on my door. If you are, Okay, you show great leadership. But odds are you're not. You're gonna be back somewhere hiding.
Yeah, leadership is when you're out in the front lines leading the troops. Being our representative and doing a job that we hired you to do is when you're sitting in Washington polishing the seat of your chair with the seat of your pants. And somehow or other being able to go from poor to millionaires by the time you get out. So, you are our employee. So if you want to stay an employee, maybe you better reconsider all this other shit that you're trying to push. And
Term limits. You need term limits.
I know, I see where there was a state representative down in Texas that told Beto that go ahead and pass that law, but I'm not turning mine in. And he happens to be a shooter and all that kind of stuff.
I think he said my AR is 15 is waiting for you or something, or we're ready for you, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Rooker does death threat.
Yeah, well, so he fell under, instead of Beto falling under fire, the guy that made the comment, or the representative, state representative that made the comment, came under a lot of fire. And so I want to switch directions here for a minute, because the next one about the mass shooting stuff is a little longer. But I want to get to something here. Seeing how we had a Remembrance Day for 9/11. I'll show you how politically correct this country is becoming and not trying to offend the people that blew down the towers. Okay? A Michigan church canceled its 1911 event critical of the interfaith movement and Islamic supremacism after complaints from the Council of American Islamic Relations and politicians. Go jump in a lake. I got a leaky rowboat. I'll give you, go back to wherever it is you came from. A former Muslim who had become a popular speaker, Sirhan Hadim, was to speak Wednesday on how the interfaith movement is sabotaging America and the church. And on Thursday, Jim Simpson, a former Office of Management and Budget economist to 3 presidents and investigative reporter, was to speak on how Islam is destroying America from within. And if you can't see it, you're more blind than a blind person. The event was planned by a group called the Detroit Coalition for Freedom. In response to the cancellation, the organization United West will feature the 2 speakers in a webinar. Must be they're going to do something on the web on Wednesday at 7 p.m. Well, that's already come and gone. So last week, the Baptist Church pastor Donna McKay defended the event in an interview with WJBK-TV. Islam is a growing threat in the United States of America. He said, we don't hate Muslims. We hate the ideology that they are identified with. Hadim said on his website that September 11th's discussion would expose the growing deception of interfaith dialogue and explain how interfaith dialogue is compromising the gospel of our national sovereignty. But the Council on American Islamic Relations, along with members of Congress and state representatives, pressed the church to cancel the event, and its elders complied. First of all, I wouldn't have done it. I'd have told them, go pound salt, you know where. Anyway, the executive director of CARE, Michigan chapter, Waldy? Yeah, Waldy.
Waldo.
Yeah, whatever. He dooted the wall. Cast the event's message as anti-Muslim bigotry. Like they said in the first part, I don't hate the people, I just hate your ideology. And if you're going to enforce that, then that means I'm going to have to do what I have to do to whatever.
Preserve yourself.
Yeah, defend myself and my God. Okay, I'm not going to try and convert you to my God, because he will take care of you in the end anyway. But I will defend myself, unlike you, who, if you don't convert, I'm going to lop off your head. Okay, let's see, where was I? CARE has been shown in court to be a front for the terrorist organization Hamas, the Palestinian branch of the Muslim Brotherhood. It was designated by the State Department as an unindicted conspirator in the scheme to fund Hamas. The United Arab Emirates in 2014 listed CARE as one of the 83 banned terrorist organizations, along with the Taliban, Al-Qaeda, and ISIS. I don't think we need to read any more on that. It basically covers it. There's only a couple paragraphs left. So let's open it up for discussion. Anybody got anything they want to say?
No. About 2.5 months ago, they were supposed to be a specialist on Islam. And he was going to talk Carl Barracks, Army War College, about the history of Islam and the threat that Islam portrayed is to the world. The commandant of the Army War College was convinced by CARE not to have this speaker because it would send the wrong message to Army officers that, Islam is a threat. Which it is, but so CARE once again strikes once again, to deny Army officers, usually rank Lieutenant Colonel, the knowledge they need to take on one of our enemies. Okay, even I read the Quran and I read the guidebook to the Quran. Trust me, they aren't our friends. So I just feel that we are bending too much. To what these people want, we need to stop.
Well, you're right, and I agree with you 100%, and that's why, because we are bending, that is emboldening more activity overseas, which then eventually is emboldening the people here in this country. Okay? I don't know, I'm from the old school, and I've studied history, and I've found in order to win a war, not get engaged in a protracted, long, drawn-out affair like we are right now, America's longest war, but to win a war, you have to do about three things. One, destroy and break things, kill people, and take land. Okay? And you have to hold that land. You can't go out and sit on top of a mountaintop and look down over a valley and say, oh, well, we got it. You've got to have troops stationed in the towns. You have to have them out on the perimeter, mountaintops or whatever, outposts, to deny the resupply of the enemy in both ammunition, food, cover, and whatever. Okay? And that's the way you win a war. Now, when Randy was reading the Declaration of Independence, they were talking about the savagery of the American Indian. And the first thought that came to my mind when he was saying that was Sun Tzu's book, The Art of War, in which you killed everything, everybody. You took no prisoners. And that, too, is a way to win a war. But I digress. We are bending backwards to accommodate our enemy, both on the front, which is over in the Middle East, and in the rear areas, which is here in the United States. And we are emboldening them with more and more and more. They've already set up enclaves
Oh, yeah.
Okay, they've already taken over
Dearborn.
Dearbornistan. Well, excuse me.
I believe it was I think it was 2015. Went up that way for a wedding. And Detroit and Dearborn are pretty much side by side. And I could not believe. I thought I was back in Iraq.
Yeah, everything's in English
I
and
mean,
Arabic.
yeah, especially in Dearborn, 'cause we went to church on Sunday for and back, in what was used to be a Polish and Ukrainian neighborhood, and you see businesses, some English and Arab script, scratch, we call it, or just scratch. How they hieroglyphics, for English, and it just
Farsi.
it just, like, I might as well be in Baghdad, or Mosul, or some great city. Or
I
something
mean,
like
when
that.
people come to this country and came to this country in the olden days, yeah, there was Polish neighborhoods, there was Italian neighborhoods, and there was some rivalry between them. But as years went on, they got to know each other. Things settled down between them. But these people don't want things to settle down. They want to take over everything, and they tell you, well, I find it offensive that you want to talk about your God in public, or I find it offensive that we see a cross as a memorial to fallen soldiers from World War I. I find it offensive that you display a major scene at Christmas time. I find it offensive that you're getting a Christmas tree and going to decorate it with lights, and I find it offensive that there's a pair of brothers, I forget where it was, I just saw it as I was looking for stuff for tonight, a pair of brothers who wanted to plant a bunch of Christmas trees on their land.
Oh, yeah, they cleared the land.
And they were denied the permits to do it. So much for having ownership of your own land. And here comes water. Thank you, young man.
I know.
I'm going to have to start bringing something down here to drink.
I know from people who are based in Turkey that if you want to celebrate Christmas with the Christmas tree, you did it in a room that the way it could not be made seen from the outside. Mm-hmm. Nobody outside of that building, like on the street corner driving by, could see the fact that you had a Christmas tree. Chaplains had to cover up with tape and take off the insignia, the Jewish star, crosses, whatever, because you couldn't do it. In fact, even when the Gulf War won, I said the same thing. Chaplains had to cover up your insignia.
Yeah, we don't want to offend thee. I've always said, if you don't like my religious beliefs, you don't like my icons that are showing out there, don't look at them. If you don't like me, don't like hearing about our Lord, don't listen. Okay? Because that's your constitutional right. When you become a citizen, that is your constitutional right to choose what religion you want to be. You can, if you have a equivalent of Christmas in your religious beliefs, or your equivalent to Jesus in your religious beliefs, I don't care if you show it in public. Okay? I just don't have to look at it, and I don't have to listen to you. I'm surely not going to deny your rights to do that. I may not like it, but I'm not going to deny your rights to do that. But the problem is, these people are trying to deny us our rights. And that is why you see so much attack on Christianity. There are towns now that people used to meet in people's homes to do Bible study. Okay, on their own private property, to do Bible study. And then the city come along and pass ordinances.
Oh, you can't do that.
You can't do that, okay? Guess what? If I can't do it in my house, I'm going to do it out in my front yard. And you come and you try and find me. I'll be easy to find, but try and find me. and then try and collect the fine. Because it's my property, I will do what I want on it as long as I'm not hurting the neighbor next door or hurting anybody that happens to be walking by. That means going out and pounding them in the face because I don't like them. Assault with a battery. Although batteries are a little heavier, ball bats would work better.
You can use
And,
size D batteries.
of course, the batteries might get an energy charge out of that too. Yeah, that's it. Size D battery out of a slingshot.
Hey,
Bang!
something just came to mind. During my last 3-day sentence in FB jail, there was a meme I come across, and I thought I had saved it, but I couldn't find it. And I wanted to repost it. It was Bishop Sheen, and I can't remember the year he said it. The problem with America, the problem with America is not intolerance. The problem with America is too much tolerance. We tolerate too much.
Yeah.
And that's what's causing our problem. We're tolerating too many people calling things racist when they're not. You know, we're tolerating these people who demand, well, this is my religion, I want it this way. Well, sorry, you can't have it your way.
Yeah, if you say something to somebody that may not be the same race as you, well, you're a racist. No. I'm telling you the truth. If you're an idiot, you're an idiot. It doesn't matter what race you are.
Oh, yes.
Okay? And every race has idiots. I know, I've seen them. Okay? But it doesn't mean I hate you. Okay? Just because I don't like you. And I'm certainly not going to go around trying to pick a fight with you just because I don't like you and you're different than I am. Because after all, you are a supposedly human being. And so, but I have an article that we're going to get to in the second hour because we're almost up to the top of the first hour. No, I haven't worked out the bugs in getting a few minute break for bumper music, but I think we're going to turn in 10 minutes we're going to turn the mics off, leave the video run, turn the mics off so we can rest our voices, and then besides that, we don't want you to hear what we're saying because somebody might find it offensive. But I do see we have stirred up something in the chat room. You saw earlier, I saw earlier a story where the refinery in Saudi Arabia was drowned.
Yeah, the Iranians saying, it wasn't our drones, we didn't do it.
Yeah, the Iranians were being blamed for it.
Yeah.
And yeah, with just a drone, well, there were several drones from the story that I read that put them out of business. I saw that drones in Saudi Arabia claim that they now know it was Iran. Yep, that's what the story is. I saw a swarm of drones. Where were you when you saw them, Joseph, G.I. Joseph? Let me know. I'd like to know where you're at. I got some shotgun shells that are specifically designed for bringing down drones.
Drone catcher.
It's the whole thing is falling apart, and it's being done by design, and everybody wants to place the blame on the Republicans or the Democrats, but you know who really is at fault? It's us for allowing them to go out of control.
That's what, like Bishop Sheen. Our problem is too much tolerance. We have tolerated too much for too long, and now it's really gotten out of hand. And how do you correct it? Then, when you have people who are proud of murdering babies in the womb, or Democrats in the House, 80-some times now, have refused to pass a bill that babies survive abortion should be allowed to live. refuse to do that.
I got a couple, I got a,
And the Democratic Party in particular, the Republican Party also, but the Democratic Party has got more socialist, more communist in nature, what they're talking about. It's you know, we are getting much closer to Orwell of 1984. It's going to be
cameras on every street corner,
Well,
microphones on every street corner. Okay.
down my way, big city down my county, Newcastle is buying 32 cameras to put in the streets.
To go along with the ones they probably already got that people don't know about.
Well, the police force there are just, and they're all been upgrading now with body cams. Now they're going to put 32 cameras out at strategic locations, to curb violence. There's a lot of shootings down my way recently.
That's why more people wear hoods, huh? So their faces can't be seen.
I mean, people posting videos from their camera they have in the house, people walking up, looking in their cars, looking in the windows, checking doors, see if they're locked or not. What was it down that way? I think one night several cars in the area were broken into.
Yeah, and if you were
But people are leaving stuff in their car for good, laptop, purse, wallet, yeah, we're breaking this car, take that.
back when I was younger and the CBs were the fad,
Oh yeah.
break-ins to steal the CB radios was a big thing. And yes, we do not self-impose a term limit on our Congress critters, which we should. Just better than them going down there and serving for 25, 30 years. You get them entrenched like the Bernie Sanders and
Career politician.
yeah, career politicians like Pelosi. See where Pelosi's supposedly going to run again.
I think she's 78 years old.
Yeah,
She's young with grandchildren?
yeah.
Great-grandchildren?
Well, she probably doesn't have any grandchildren.
She might not, I don't know. I have no idea. I mean, but
She may have avoided.
She and her husband can be enjoying,
She may have avoided all of them when she was younger. But all that stuff you're talking about leads to why this country is having mass shootings. And after the break, I have a statement from an interview from a lady that was wounded in Washington, D.C. at the Naval Yard down there, and she survived the shooting. And it's a very interesting interview that she gave, which we'll bring up at the beginning of the next session or next hour, because we got 4 minutes left to go, and I think at that point we're going to turn our mics off so we can rest our voices. And we'll be back in about 5 minutes. Come on, Mike. Turn your Mickeys on. Hello, folks. Can you hear us now? We're back. During the break there, I was holding up the Trump flag. I ordered 10. I was only able to get 5. I'm supposed to be able to order some more. Some more the first of the month. So I will see what I can do. So, what I was saying last week. If anybody wants to donate, I know you can buy them cheaper online than what I'm asking for them as a donation. If you want to donate $15 to the station and $5 for shipping, I will send you one of these. But like I said, I know you can buy them elsewhere for cheaper.
Put your signature on it. Adds some value to it.
Maybe.
That's worth the extra $5. A signed Daryl Civic.
I hadn't thought
Put some
about
red lipstick on them like a pig, and then you can smooch the T of the Trump flag.
Yeah.
That's $5 more right there.
5? Let's make it big. $50 for a signed one.
$50 for a signature and a smooch.
No. Okay, he's got a point there. For $20, we'll send you a signed Trump flag with Mr. T's signature on it, and my signature.
That easy.
And Bones over here, the bludgeoner.
Bones is bludgeoner.
That's pleasure.
He's the serial bludgeoner.
Last one I got was with a stick and a rock.
That's why they call you the bludgeoner.
I'm the bludgeoner.
So, anyway, all you gotta do to get one is send me an envelope. Send in an envelope, cash, wrapped in foil, and tell me you want one of them flags. And the first 5 that get them, I will send them out with my signature and everybody else's signature. And then we'll repeat it in October if I can get some more of those. Because I do need some help with paying the expenses that keep this thing going. Because I don't I don't want it to fail just because we lost Mike, who was a key player. And I talked to Scott earlier. He's been sick. So maybe once he gets over this cold that he's got, he may be here next week. But I know I promised you a story about a lady who survived the mass shooting in the Naval Yard in Washington a few years ago, but I got something I want to throw in there because this is all part of why we're losing our country. This is all part of the 10 planks of the Communist Manifesto that we went over with last week. Washington Examiner, a transgender coffee shop employee in Lincoln, Nebraska, was fired for telling a customer never to come back because she supported conservatism or conservatives. I went into, I won't raise the name, although it should, Cotivity Espresso and Crepes, a breakfast like I do once a week, Maryland. Schneck,
Neck, yeah.
23 described the incident to the Washington Examiner on Thursday. The employee approached me, called me by my name, and started yelling profanities at me. The employee asked me to leave and informed me that if I tried to come back, I would be denied service because of my bigoted views. So, Schneck, remember being told, you are a effing king, bigoted trash, and we don't want you in our restaurant. Over 80% of the people who work here are queer, and you're not effing king wanted in this restaurant. So get out and don't come back. I'd have probably gone back, carrying a ball bat, and smacked the son of a bitch in the head.
80% are queer. I feel bad for the other 20%.
Yeah, well, what needs to be done is anybody that's straight, if that place is that queer, don't go there.
Why should we?
You know, I have nothing against gays being gays, as long as they keep it in their house, okay, in their bedroom or wherever, as long as they're not pumping it out in the, I'm sorry.
basement.
putting it out in plain sight and trying to convert others to their way, especially in school with the alternative lifestyle that they are.
That's the way they can reproduce.
Huh?
That's the way they can reproduce.
Well, they can't even reproduce then. That's the only good thing about
They encourage more members, they can't reproduce.
That's the only good thing about it is it'll eventually die out. Because
it's only gonna get worse because, I mean,
well, it's going to get worse.
you can sit here and you can look at it from every perspective, but a child is a product of their environment.
That's right.
Okay,
And that's
so if you have a child that's adopted by a homosexual couple and they are raised in an environment where they see that and they come to understand it as something that's okay, it corrupts them. And I wholeheartedly believe that could turn a person gay.
well, it can't because they're getting dosed with it. And that's what I'm saying. I'm against this alternative lifestyle courses that are being introduced in school to kids in the first grade, kindergarten, first grade, second grade, or whatever. That is to promote homosexualism.
But see, ultimately, I think a lot of the problems that we have in this country, I mean, all I ever hear is people sitting down and saying, oh, well, this is the problem. If we just pass this one law, this will just, hey, that'll do it, man.
Foot in the door. We'll pass this one law and that'll take care of it. Well, that didn't work, so we'll pass this next law, and we'll throw more money at it. And that didn't work. Well, then that means we have to go to the next step and do the next step and throw more money at it. And what do you got? You got an educational system that can't educate. Kids come out of school, can't read, write, or do simple mathematics without a computer to tell them what they're doing. They sound harsh, but that's the way it is.
But I think all the problems that we have in this country stem from the fact that we have a serious mental health issue that we're not ready to address yet. I mean, between the guns, homosexuality, all of these problems that we have in this country.
We tolerate too much.
It's not that we don't want to address it. It's just we tolerate it. Because if we try to address it or do anything about it, you get sent to jail instead of the people that have the problem.
But see, that's the problem. The more that we tolerate some of these problems with the mental illnesses that are out there, the closer to fucking oblivion that we come.
Well,
I mean, that's the God's honest truth. You don't solve a problem by going, well, I guess it just ain't there.
well, this lady sums it up in a nutshell. You mind reading that, Mr. T?
I assume that you want me to read it since you
Yeah.
handed it to me.
Yeah, that was the idea. Boy, very astute observation there. You see how this show is going to go, folks? I'm going to read a story and then I'm going to push it off to somebody else.
Okay. This is from WorldNet Daily. The only way mass shooting will end. This is from by Shaq Hill. It talks about Jennifer Bennett surviving the Navy Yard massacre. There is no September anniversary we need to examine. It's not 9/11. The lesson of this anniversary, if implemented, will end mass shootings. 6 years ago, September 16, 2013, the Washington, D.C. Navy Yard was under attack. On that Monday, over 3,000 Navy Yard employees would report as normal to work with a desire to make the Navy stronger. Go Navy, whatever. And in turn make America safer. Yet on that day, there would be a shooter in the building that threatened the lives of each of them. Jennifer Bennett was one of them. As she was evacuating the building down a stairwell, Jennifer walked into the shooter, who killed 12 that day, and was shot point blank with a sawed-off shotgun. That caused time to slow down to super slow motion, and she calls her Matrix moment. When the shooter lowered his weapon, Jennifer says she saw every move of the shooter, frame by frame, millisecond by millisecond. She saw the shot leave the end of the barrel and head straight forward. As it flew through the air, she watched it come closer and strike her left shoulder. She next heard the familiar sound of a shotgun blast as if to congratulate the shot for hitting its target. The shooter left his post thinking he had another kill and went down the stairs. Jennifer was able to escape by going up and then onto the roof. After an hour and 10 minutes, Jennifer was dramatically rescued by helicopter and flown to safety. Within minutes, she would be surgery to repair a hole in her left shoulder. Yes, a hole. Think Elmer Fudd and Bugs Bunny. Her recovery will last a month, including subsequent surgeries and painful physical therapy. Recently, I had the opportunity to speak with Jennifer Bennett. She believes her insight just might lead to the end of all mass shootings. Question. Jennifer, how are you doing? It is well with my soul. I have pain every day, but the days are getting better. I am thankful for all who kept me alive. From those on the roof with me, to the helicopter team that rescued me, to the surgeons that put my shoulder back together. They are the real heroes to me. Question. There are a lot of discussion about mass shootings. Please comment. The discussion today identifies the what that caused them. Many are talking about the gun, the size of the magazine, and background checks. Although mass shootings by definition require a gun, it is not the gun that commits them. It's today's culture that creates them. It's not the gun's fault, it never has been, and never will be. It's the culture America has created that has allowed mass shootings. Question, what do you mean by today's culture? Americans have always had access to firearms. In fact, without them, we never could have won independence from England. However, when I was going to school in the 60s, we had guns. We didn't have a culture of mass shootings that we have today. Question. You mentioned a culture a couple of times. What about our culture? What are you talking about? If we want to end mass shootings, we must change the culture that facilitates mass shootings. Question. Can you be more specific? Good. American culture was founded on Christian principles that are literally enshrined in our founding documents. Today, our culture has eliminated any reference to Christianity. And in some cases, personal religious beliefs actually land the faithful foul of the law. The last few decades have witnessed an increased hostility toward Christians. When government can punish an individual not baking a cake or selling flowers or paying for abortion, then the culture has shifted away from religious freedom to something else. Question, what else? American culture no longer values life, which is true. With abortion on demand up until the moment of birth, our culture has shifted away from the culture of life to the culture of death. Politicians now openly discuss and pass legislation that removes life's values, starting from the beginning, conception, to after the child is born, infanticide, to the end, assisted suicide. Every person today knows that his or her mother had a choice, to kill them or to let them live. Let's be honest, if a mom can kill her baby, and it's not too far-fetched to think that years later, that same baby could choose to go into a school, movie theater, or dance club and kill somebody. Our culture allows the killing of innocent children, facilitates the killing of innocent students, moviegoers, or dancers. Question. I can tell you have something else in your mind. Yes, our culture no longer allows our children to fail or face the consequences of their actions, which is true. You can see that with a high school or a school that let them pass. Don't fail, don't hold them back a grade.
No student left behind.
Yeah, no student left behind. The way we grow up has an unshakable influence and impact on the way we live as adults. Today, if a child didn't pass a class, then it's the teacher's fault. In my day, it was the student's fault.
Yeah, same way with me.
Everyone who tries out to be everyone who tries out for a cheerleading squad makes it. At the end of the season, everyone gets a trophy. But this isn't how the world works. I didn't try out for a cheerleading squad.
Gee, I didn't know that.
When did cheerleaders start getting trophies?
Yeah.
You know, to make you feel good, every team gets a trophy. Whatever.
Feel good society.
Yeah. So the child, when that child grows into adulthood, having never failed at anything, it's no wonder life's ordinary challenges can turn into huge events that even adults are not simply prepared to handle. And when there is no God to answer to, and no value for innocent life, it's not too implausible to think this adult may just go out and buy a gun to punish the person or persons who made him fail. Question, as you approach the 6th anniversary of your being shot, what final thoughts do you have? In short, there needs to be a shift in discussion of the mechanics of gun violence to why we have a culture of mass shootings. When our culture values life once again, mass shootings will end. When our children grow up in a culture that rewards hard work, achievement, and excellence, then mass shootings will end. And when our culture embraces a higher authority, then mass shootings will end. And, okay. This note here, Denver Bennett is the only Navy Yard employee to be shot and survive. The book Standing Still in a Culture of Mass Shooting explores in greater detail her beliefs about mass shootings and how they shift the culture back to one without them. And learn more about her about NavyYardSurvivor.com.
A lot of points there, what we've been saying before. And without much stretch of the imagination, you can see what she's talking about is part of the, there again, Communist Manifesto on how to take over a country, take it over from within by destroying. You destroy the history, you destroy the culture. And how do you destroy the culture? Well, that's stuff because it might be so-called slave-related to the history of the years of slavery in this country. Okay, we don't want people to know about that. So we're going to take down all these monuments to these different people.
The thing is, slavery was not the main cause.
That didn't become a cause until. That did not become the main cause until the Emancipation Proclamation after Gettysburg. The main cause was the
tyrannical northern government with all its taxes on southern inputs.
The same thing that started the Revolutionary War, basically. Dictatorial government from England and the high taxation.
And now it replaces that with a government controlled by the northern states, taxing the South for anything they import or export.
Both ways.
Yes.
Yeah, both ways. They send out
other things too. I mean, other things
they sent out a bale of cotton and they had a bunch of shirts made, and the shirts came back. There was a tax of the bale of cotton going out and a tax of the shirts coming back in. And it's basically the same way with the colonies. England would not allow any major industries to develop in the colony, so all the raw material was taken out here. Furs, timber, okay, minerals of whatever that they were needed were taken over there and processed, and trees were sent back as furniture or lumber. Although some people used made their houses out of log cabins, but the cotton that was grown at the time, the flax, okay, was sent over to England and was turned into paper and material to make shirts out of, and rope.
Hemp.
Yeah, hemp rope.
I think ultimately, though, when you sit and you think about it, I see the parallels that you're trying to draw, but I don't think that there's really enough there to substantiate that, because at the end of the day, the reason that we broke away from the United Kingdom was because there was taxation without representation. It wasn't the fact that we were being taxed. You know, I mean,
yeah,
everybody pays taxes all the time. You know, what did that one feller say? Two things in life I'm sure of: death and taxes.
Yeah, well, that's true. But we have the system now where we have representatives, but they don't get our okay to raise the taxes. They raise the taxes at their whim. We have no say. Just like it was with the king. We had no say then, and we have no say now, because we cannot call them on the carpet for it.
But that's why we broke away from England.
That's right.
Because we were being taxed without representation.
That's right.
The reason the South left was because, one, again, they were being taxed, but they were having their rights stolen out from underneath them.
Exactly.
And they said enough was enough.
And that's what's happening today.
Yeah, they are outnumbered in Congress.
Yep.
Okay, they're being taxed to death, but it's still, we're probably, the cotton gin was actually going to make slavery obsolete.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. You didn't need to have 500 slaves to go through and pick the seeds out of the cotton, or even pick the cotton off the cotton plants they had developed. And like you said, the cotton gin, put the cotton in there, it turned it around, pulled out all the seeds, or 99%.
Well, a lot of people understand too, when the Confederate States made their own country, okay, in the Articles of Federation, they formed a country. Okay, this is what the states did. Okay, this is what we're going to do. We're going to make the United States Federation. Okay, Articles of Federation. We're backing right. Okay, we're done with this. We're no voice for foreign workers. We're backing out the Articles of Confederation. We're developing our own country, and they did. They had a president, legislators, all that stuff. Their own money. They had their own country. The North invaded them. Great. The North, the Union Army invaded, a sovereign country.
Well, I was just talking to a guy at work about this because he was trying to trump up Abraham Lincoln like he was just the cat's pajamas.
Oh, yeah.
Now, see, I don't happen to think that way. I think that between him and FDR, those are the two presidents that have come closest to ever being a dictator the United States has ever had.
Lincoln did a few things, kind of back behind him. Can't specify him, but
raising an army to invade his own country.
He raised an army, invaded a sovereign power. There's an army left alone. Okay, and actually we're willing to be cooperative. Okay, you want cotton and wheat or whatever, but it will, hey, we will be left alone. And of course the big, we can't do it. We gotta save the Union. The emotion runs wild. Okay. We got to save the Union. Bring him back in the fold. And we did bring him back in the fold. Basically crucified him for years. Punished him. And that too probably has something to do about why we're so tolerant of the government coming down hard on people. But I had nothing but admiration for the Confederacy. I mean, they're taking their statues down. Why you try to hide history? Okay, rewrite history. Again, this is the way you take over country. Rewrite history. You forget the lessons learned of our forefathers and founding fathers and all that.
But the court, we kind of drifted away, which we normally do.
No.
My gosh, squirrel.
No.
But this lady has it pretty nailed pretty good. She's been a victim.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, and she knows it's not the gun's fault, but it's society's fault because we have created a society of people cannot handle failure, like you were saying. The school systems have the No Child Left Behind program. Means it doesn't matter if the kid got F all through this thing, if he can pass the final exam at the end of the year, he gets promoted. Okay.
That's not entirely how that works. But
They also have part of that, the alternative education program, in which a kid, if he causes trouble in school, okay, they can suspend him for whatever amount of time, and after a certain part of that suspension has been fulfilled, he can start coming to school part-time. Not the whole day, but part of the day. And if he behaves himself for a certain amount of time, which would be just the discretion of the principal, he would then be allowed to come back to school full-time. But at the end of the year, he would miss so much because he couldn't do the other work. He'd miss so much they would still promote him. Okay? And you cannot do that. You cannot reward poor work with
Speaking of school suspension, I think California governor just signed a law prohibiting schools from suspending troublesome students.
Yeah, there we go. See, that's the next step. Now they can go in there and you can't suspend them, so what do? You have to tolerate them being disruptive in class. You have to tolerate them if they decide to start being bullies.
See, at Meadville they had ISS and then just flat out suspension. Meadville, you get in-school suspension, and they put you in a room with a desk all by yourself, no windows, no nothing, and gave you work. And that was your punishment. You had to
That's
sit
the way
there
it should be.
Do your work.
Yeah, that's the way it should be.
But
And that's what similar to what it was when we were kids, when I was in school.
it took them a while to figure out, how that I've run out of matches. Do we have any more?
There's a whole bag of matches up there behind the flag, or the fan, on this shelf, or on this shelf the fan's sitting on. Behind the fan, there should be a whole bag of them.
I remember
I'll
my
find them
dad,
eventually.
Yeah.
my dad talked about, I know at school, you get mad for, like I had failed this or something like that, or didn't make the team for, baseball or something like that, And my dad said, like, you can't succeed at everything. There are things that you won't be able to do, what you could do, but somebody does it better, so they get on the team. So I know you can throw, I know you can, but, so you can take failure and blame yourself and move around all day and not get anything accomplished, or you say, okay, that's it, I'm going to try a different direction, or I'm going to try again, and you keep trying to succeed. Nowadays, people don't, the kids aren't taught that.
It's a cigarette lighter. Yeah, well,
we homeschool our 6 kids, okay, and
it's not filled.
my youngest is now working at a job for the summer, and she has amazed her employers.
She has a work ethic.
Yeah, she does, and there have been, I think, 2 or 3 times now that somebody was not able to come in. Hey, can you come to work? Sure, okay. Oh, she does. But it's, they want you, okay, we want you, and some of the stuff is like, oh, this is below me. This is, move this, move that, and she, when it came time to,
See, that's a pack of matches.
they practice
a whole bag.
If we lose power, okay, you can't work in, cash register.
Yeah.
What do you do? You get a calculator?
Piece of paper and a pencil.
Yeah, you can do that. That's the same way my oldest daughter, when she worked at the Winter many years ago. When they had problems with the price, the registers, okay, she was the only one who could. She went from floor to floor. Okay, this is what you do to handle this sale. Okay, she go floor to floor to handle this and to do, because nobody else. They were just, what do I do? What do I do? Yeah. And we're talking people who are supposed to be in college, or maybe just graduated from high school, and they don't know what to do. They're clueless.
Yeah, it's the drive to succeed has been severely damaged. Just put it that way. Because of the rewards for failure, it does not encourage the person to strive to succeed, because, well, I'm going to get this regardless of what I do, so why should I put forth?
Well, yeah, and organizations are structured. You can only advance so far anyway. So you get to where you can go and say, I'm happy right here. I won't do a change or something.
And this lady, or she was talking about a society that accepts or tolerates murder of babies.
Yeah.
Okay. Plus the destruction of our Christian values. I know she said a superior being will just, because we're offensive in nature, because of the attack on our Christian identities here, the lack of religious enforcement in our society also leads to the decay, because you don't have anybody out there telling, well, this is right and this is wrong. but go ahead and do this anyway, and we're not gonna punish you for it
If it feels good, do it.
yeah, okay? And,
Remember that one?
so, you just, and these are all parts of what we were talking about. And, it all comes together and you start seeing this. Like I said, destruction of our heritage. Just like, there was a move here a couple years ago to, rename a couple of football teams because they were bearing Indian names like the Washington Redskins. And who was the other one? Gosh, show you how
Well,
much.
like Cleveland Indians, they got rid of
Cleveland
their
Indians
logo.
baseball, yeah,
They got rid of their,
yeah. Kansas City Chiefs,
yeah.
yeah. So, but you attack the identity and you destroy the culture and you leave wide open borders. Once you do that, you destroy the educational system. Once you do that, you have no country. And I know Trump is not God, and Trump has tried to do a lot of stuff. He hasn't had the cooperation to do it, but you have to give him kudos for what he has accomplished. And I will tell you this right now, he has given the deep state, that's the deep state, the ones that are actually calling the shots, fits. And there's been some information, intelligence come out that if he should win the nomination again,
Or nomination election.
well, the election, so if he should win the election in 2020, that the deep state has already got plans to come after him and his family.
That surprised me.
Okay. So
I know there's a lot of people who don't like Trump, and there's some reason why. I think part of it, I know he shoots and hit, maybe not think things out clearly, but he's got to be being advised by people who are more oriented to the deep state, and they badly influence him, they badly advise him, and he's not maybe has enough expertise, enough knowledge to say, well, wait a minute, time out, this is not right. But he goes with what they got, like Bolton, okay? National Security Advisor, okay? I know he was pro-Israel, but he's a war hawk. He was against the Afghanistan pull-out strategy. I'm glad he's gone. Maybe we'll rise up. I mean, the Soviets were, what, I think they were 10 years and realized they weren't going to win, and they left. We're there. We're still there after, what,
19 years?
Yes,
Yeah.
we're still there, and still losing people, still needlessly still wasting money.
But like I said before, when we were talking about, the only way you can win a war is to take the land away from them, destroy their source of supply.
Well, as far as the war in Afghanistan and the war on terror goes, you can't fight that kind of war in a conventional sense, because that's not a war on like, oh, we've declared war on Russia, or oh, we're going to kick Germany's ass for a third time, or oh, the British are asking for seconds. It's not like we can go in and there's distinct drawn battle lines that we can go in and we can,
Yeah, there's a perfect reason what I was talking about.
and fight and beat them. No,
This
is a war between Christianity and Islam.
If you want it,
That's
basically,
exactly
and
what
we're
it
a
is.
Christian country,
And
right?
it's never going to stop
No.
until,
It's like the Crusades. The Christians come in and they took back part of the country and they held it for a while. Then the Muslims got together their armies, they come in and they kick the Christians back out. Then a little while later, the Christians come back marching in, kick the Muslims out. Okay, and there was a certain amount of peace in between there. But what I'm trying to say is the only way you can win a war, and this goes through all of history, you have to destroy the enemy's, number one, supply. Do that, you take the land. You take their industry or destroy their industry, and you kill every one of their soldiers that they got. Now, I'm not being a slaughterer of women and children, as called for by Sun Tzu in his Art of War, okay? But I am telling you, the only way you can stop that, and we should have learned that in Vietnam, okay? We should have learned that in Vietnam, where we lost 52,000 soldiers. or more. I think it's up to
You have
58
to,
now.
you have to destroy their will to fight.
That's right.
If you don't do that, can't do that, won't do that.
We were bombing North Vietnam. Yes, we were carrying the fight to them, but we weren't allowed to send troops across the DMZ into North Vietnam. If you would have sent an invading army up there, the flow of troops to the south would have stopped, the supply would have stopped, because then the North would need it there in the north to try and stop the invading army. And
I'm no tactician or general or anything like that, but I think it would be nearly impossible to destroy the supply to the Taliban because we can't even find them to kill them anymore.
well, we
They're
don't need
hidden
to-
amongst
if
the
we-
populace.
we
The
don't
Chinese and the Russians and every bad guy behind every street corner is the one supplying them.
That's because they are two-faced.
We can take ground, and we can put, an Iowa farm boy overseas to die for some politician's pocketbook or for
Well, what
this
they're
or that,
doing-
but what sense does it make?
What they're doing is they're still dying for oil and opioids.
What's it?
Okay,
What's that?
let's face it. That's what they're doing.
Well,
We don't-
and part of it, we put too many restrictions on what we do, and
He knows. He was over there for 2 years, or two tours.
Well, and you should know firsthand. With all the rules of engagement and with everything going on over there and with politics...
our rules of engagement
and-
suck, okay? They help the enemy, okay? When you have to prove that the guy you killed was planting a mine, okay, and you shot him before he did it, and if you can't prove it, you end up before done with. I mean, people have done that. They're people.
Well, I mean, you have to admit, if you grease some guy and then you walk up and you go, well, I thought he was planting a mine, but he doesn't have a landmine, he's got a puppy or something.
Well,
That can
But I mean,
happen.
if somebody's running around with an AK and you shoot him and you go, well,
Well,
Run around with a gun.
now in Iraq, you're civilian allowed to have AK-47s, which could fire on full automatic. Okay. But when I was there, if they pointed at you, you could shoot them. Okay.
it's too fucking late. Pointing at you.
Now in Afghanistan, thanks to Obama, if they point the weapon at you, you can't do a thing until they actually pull a trigger.
So they put the first round at you. Yeah.
Yeah, well, then it's really too late.
Well, for our guys, it was.
But would you think it's fair to say that part of the reason that we're having so much trouble over there is because our own leadership is preventing us from fighting the war effectively?
Yes, has been.
I mean, I think it's a fair
I
statement.
know since day one.
In all actuality, if you go back and you study the history of all the wars, you will find that the leadership and the civilian leadership is what causes most of the problems in fighting and dealing with the enemy. Just like I was starting to say about Vietnam, we have restrictions in Vietnam. We can't send soldiers to North across the DMZ, even though the North was sending
Okay,
soldiers
well,
down to the south.
that's a perfect example of what I'm talking about.
Yeah,
okay?
that is.
Why couldn't we send troops over the 30th parallel? Because the Russians and the Chinese were across the border.
The Chinese didn't like the Vietnamese any better than...
Well, they actually fought a war before we were over there anyhow.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it was after, I don't remember.
Well, they've done both. They fought before and they fought after.
But at any rate, the Russians were over there going and feeding them weapons, okay? We can't
It wasn't just-
do that because then we're killing Russians and now we're fighting.
Well, the Russians...
Now we
didn't
can't invade them because
They
now
didn't
we're
have
fighting
any...
Russians.
Russians didn't have any troops. They didn't have any troops over
Well, what
there.
about all the Russian pilots that were in Korea or Vietnam shooting down
different.
American
Korea
pilots
is different.
in
Korea
different
is different.
uniforms?
Korea is different.
They did
Vietnam,
the
they
same
had
thing in
some
Vietnam,
advisors.
didn't they? Didn't they have
but
Russian
it
advisors?
couldn't cross over to bomb North Korea or attack their airfields.
Yeah.
Couldn't do that.
But even in Vietnam, the Russians had advisors.
They had advisors, but
And they
they
had
weren't...
pilots down there.
Because they were training the training them. It's like anybody, they were training them to use the military hardware that was being supplied to them vis-a-vis, whether it be tanks or aircraft or whatever.
Now, when I understand General Westmoreland, four-star commander in Vietnam for way too long, up through chain of command can report that Chinese advisors were killed, okay, and we had some bodies. And he said, I don't want to hear anything about Chinese advisors. Don't tell me anything about Chinese advisors. Don't report anything about Chinese advisors. Nothing. No comments made by anybody about it. Okay? We didn't want to admit the Chinese were there. We didn't want to admit the Russians were there. In fact, for the longest time, I remember correctly, we could not bomb Haiphong or the port city because Russian and Chinese vessels were there.
Then those are the vessels that are bringing in
now Nixon did change that. We put a lot of the harbor to be mined, because mines don't discriminate. So that kind of changed it too a little bit, you know. But until that time, I mean, we couldn't attack the harbor without, oh no, we don't want to sink a Russian ship or
for the longest time we couldn't bomb the trails because the North Vietnamese didn't necessarily come directly across the DMZ.
Well, they went into Laos and Cambodia.
Well, Laos and Cambodia, okay, the Ho Chi Minh Trail. We, for the longest time, were not allowed to do anything to stop that. By bombing in Laos or bombing in Cambodia. It wasn't until...
Not officially.
And what incident happened that the president changed his mind and started allowing the bombings of those territories?
Oh, I think,
Gulf of Tompkins?
no, I think it was Tet.
Tet.
In the 1968 Tet offensive.
Yeah. Okay. So, but you see, you have to attack the enemy where he's at. You can't attack the enemy where he's not
I
at.
think what pissed him off was that on the holiday like Tet, it was supposed to be a ceasefire. But the North Vietnamese and the Viet Cong decided, hey, they're not prepared for attack. Their guards down.
Mm-hmm.
And they did. So they violated the truce, and that pissed off a lot of people.
Well, see, you just can't, when you're dealing with certain mindset, there's no dealing with them. They will tell you what you want to hear, and as soon as you start to apply what you agreed to, that's when they're going to come and try and kick in the ass. And at that point, I think we need to, where are we at? Oh, by the way, folks, I saw on the chat that somebody was saying I see Braveheart radios on Sunday night from 6 to 8. Keep spreading the word, because that's the only way we get to stay on the air is by people watching. Our number of likes has jumped from, I think we're up to 200 and close to 240 likes. I think we're up about 20. Yeah, keep spreading the word. And as far as the notification and telling you we're on, I know a couple people have gotten the notification and told me that they were notified as soon as we came on the air. But I being I'm down here, I can't tell you what YouTube's doing. So the fact that we're getting out is an accomplishment, major accomplishment. It's like the peace treaty for World War II as far as that goes. Yeah, keep spreading the word. And Mr. T will bring the bear paw in so he can put the bear print on the flag too. So, anyhow,
I tell you, I've had my cameras out there for months, and I keep moving around. He must know, he must see them and avoid them. Of course, I got to check my latest ones with the camera.
You got the infrared things on it?
He's probably smelling you on the camera.
I spray it with.
Put a piece of dead meat out there.
No, he's bare.
Well, that's it. You put dead meat out there, and he'll come for it.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah. They're
Now,
not all
last year, my daughter's in the house there. She seen the bear where he back and forth. Okay, I put a camera out there, and I had pictures of deer going from right to left in the camera. Okay, and the same deer. If you look at the time spacing on there, are now coming from left to right to the front of the camera. Okay, and then there's the next frame is nothing black. It's just all black. There's nothing you can't see but black. So I don't know if he put his head against the cameras, I put the paw against the cameras, I don't know.
Well, if you got a picture of that paw,
Well, is it just black? You can't see anything. I mean,
we'll get a silk screen made of it and put it on the flag.
no, is it all black? You can't, I mean, it might as well be at nighttime.
I have here a piece of ridiculousness. It shows you how intelligent our newspaper reporters are. This was a thing I saw this week. This is a tweet from the New York Times. Suggests airplanes, not terrorists, are responsible for the 9/11 attack. Okay, so we're attacking the wrong person. We should be shooting down all the airplanes out there because they're attacking our buildings. Anyway, New York Times tweet Wednesday on the anniversary of the 9/11 attack suggested that airplanes with the mind of their own took aim at the World Trade Center and the Pentagon 18 years ago, not Islamic terrorists carrying out a diabolical or deliberate attack on the United States of America. 18 years have passed since airplanes took aim and brought down the World Trade Center, the tweet reported by the Daily Caller. They revised their tweet, and this is what they come up with now. The new tweet reads that 18 years after nearly 3,000 people were lost, families of those killed in the terror attack will gather at the 9/11 memorial. There will be a moment of silence at 8:46 a.m. Then the names of the dead, one by one, will be recited. Meanwhile, the tendency of the left to obscure the culprits of the 9/11 attack have on display Wednesday at the 9/11 memorial event in New York. Okay, I'm not going to read any more of that because that's giving too much credit to the screwy, mentally ill major newspapers, and I don't know what to make of it. There again, I know what Trump would say: fake news. Okay.
Well, I remember where I was and watching CBS News, and there was an overhead shot of the Pentagon that apparently only aired once. And I looked at it and said, where's the airplane? No full-size airplane hit that building.
No.
And then and never saw it seen again. And then I have our reserve commanding general comes and our first drill after 9/11, and she talks about what she was doing before the plane crashed, and then the building shaking, and explosion, all that sound, and she rushed out, and then she, oh man, I forgot my Starbucks coffee. I paid a lot of money for that, and ran back in and got her coffee, and then exited the building.
Well, how wide is the body of a 747?
Well, it was 757, but
They're 757.
Many. It's wide. It's big.
But
Okay.
what happened to the wings? They just peel off? There were no wings, there was no tail section.
That's what I was alluding to.
Nothing there. It was just some like scraps of metal.
Yeah.
And it gives more what I want
You ever
more
see
belief in that there was some video, one video that did not get censored was something. She sees something small, then there's an explosion. Small airplane, small cruise missile, or cruise missile. Okay.
It's funny how all the video disappeared.
But it was no full size. I've been to a crash with C-123 at one military installation I was assigned to many years ago. There was wreckage. Now, I'm glad it didn't, nosedive in the ground, but still, there was wreckage.
Well, the point
Where was the wreckage in Shanksville? Here's the impact crater, or hole, whatever. Okay,
well, they picked it all up.
a very short amount of time.
Yeah. Okay. They they sent
fast.
thousands of people over there because the plane told the ground people that we were going to crash down there.
You gotta pick up all the pieces.
Yeah. So, but anyway, not to
Sometimes
make-
when a plane
not to make-
crashes, it almost vaporizes and disintegrates.
Well, it hasn't
Sometimes
vaporized,
it's buried
yeah.
25, 30 feet in the ground. I mean, I'm telling you. Also, it's
Yeah, but there would be.
155 feet from tip to tip, from wing to wing.
Okay, now what was the size of the hole in the Pentagon? 16 feet,
I don't remember about
something like that.
But I mean, there's a lot that goes into that. How fast was it going when it hit the building?
No, don't.
You know, what
If the
was the
plane,
angle of impact?
if the plane is bigger than the hole, then it wasn't the plane that caused the hole.
Well, you gotta think.
Then the wings would peel off, which would do damage laterally instead of vertically.
So they would do damage laterally.
But there was none.
And it would crack in like that, or
There
they
was
would go
none.
in and they would vaporize. I mean,
There was none. There was no lateral damage. It was just the vertical damage that was done.
just a hole, a round hole, no
Yeah.
wings.
it. Nothing.
And it wasn't big enough to accommodate the size of a 727 or 707, 57. Okay, the hole wasn't big enough. That's what I'm getting at. The fuselage of the plane was bigger than the hole. And,
I'm sure that can be explained in some.
yeah, it's called a cruise missile.
You know, the thing about 9/11,
What the hell did
I
they do? I mean, all the people that were there and saw the building get hit by a plane. I mean,
It was
you think everybody just mass hysterically saw a plane instead of a
you
cruise
have to
missile?
understand what was going on at the time. Okay? We were knee deep in the need of oil in this country at the time, before all these discoveries came about.
Donald Rumsfeld, the Secretary of Defense, announced the how many $1 trillion the Pentagon couldn't account for.
Yeah. So they have to cover
And-
their ass.
That accounting office, where all responsible money, would have me in the same side of the building it was hit. The people responsible for tracking all that money, their offices were right there in the same side of that building.
And now, see, I'm sure that there was some other stuff going on in the
Oh, sure.
background.
But see,
Where- I'm
one,
telling you, a cruise missile hitting the building instead of two planes. I bet you they stuck some towheads in them planes and had them hit that building, and they knowingly let it happen. And they used that as an excuse to cover up and do a lot of
Well, they
different
knew
shady
that.
shit in the background.
They knew.
But I don't think that the Navy would launch a cruise missile and
Well, Navy's not the only one
smack
got
into
cruise
it.
missiles. No, I'm just saying.
But there's a Lieutenant General Mott, I cannot remember his first name. I knew him as a colonel before Benjamin Harrison, back around the 87, 89 time frame, okay? He was killed that day. He was a great guy. He was a great officer to work with, okay, to serve with. And he was needlessly killed, in my opinion. By act of terrorism or government-sponsored in-house terrorism, I don't know.
You have-
Who did that?
You have to understand that it's quieted down as far as the term, the New World Order, okay? All this stuff that has happened in the last, well, I'm going to say since the end of World War II, is to set up one world government, okay? And the only way you can do that is you've got to destroy the individual countries. Now, one of the toughest ones to bring under control is Islam, Muslims, okay, Middle East. They have tried a couple different wars, not including the Crusades, to try and quell the area. We first had the Russians go in there and try to do it, and they were getting their clock clean, so they said, hell with it. And then we had to we just couldn't go and pick up where the Russians left off. We had to have an event that would create patriotism to allow certain things to happen. One, the so-called Patriot Bill, which then held people without bail against the Constitution. Didn't have to tell you what you were being arrested for. Okay, didn't have to tell your family where you're at, and they didn't have to let you have get a hold of a lawyer. Okay, until they were ready for you to do that. I personally was held under that Patriot bill with no bail for 3 months. Okay, until my heart kicked up. Then they couldn't wait to get me out of there because they didn't want the responsibility because of my popularity of me dying in their prison. So they got me out of there. They didn't want to pay the bill for the hospital surgery.
They wanted to be martyred.
Yeah, they didn't want me to be a martyr in this area. But anyway, I digress. I'm not patting myself in the back. I'm going by personal experience. Oh, thank you. Going by personal experience. These are all things that are behind the scenes of why. Okay, we wanted a Patriot Act because we wanted to be able to hold domestic or regular terrorists without anybody knowing who they were and or what happened to them.
Government surveillance.
Okay, and that was to get the Patriot bill. The other was probably to cover up what he was saying, the trillions of dollars worth of lost funds. But the other one was to create an incident in which we would then go to war to pick up where the Russians left off. You follow what I'm saying? We gotta have a reason. We just can't go and start kicking their ass or shooting. We gotta have a reason.
Since we aided the Afghanis when the Russians were there.
Yeah. So, anyhow, well, okay, we have about 2 minutes. Is there anything you would like to say there, Mr. T?
Tune in next week.
We can either go better or worse, whatever the case or whatever how you feel. Hopefully we'll be getting better.
Seriously, yeah. This is my first time back in over 2 months. I still can't believe Mike's gone, and I guess still got to work out a routine of sorts. So bear with us.
Yeah, I will admit that. Try to bring down the bottle of rum that was left here. And you and I and Bones, if he's here next week, will have a toast to Mike. Let people know. Okay, let me know your address. All right, here's my address, folks. Obviously, you have my name, Daryl Civic. That's S-I-V-I-K. I wouldn't want the wrong impression to get out there and the wrong person to get arrested for having that name.
Why don't you type it in and send it through the chat so that way it's there
I'm telling them because they're listening. Because I ain't gonna take the time to type it in because I don't know how to do the chat. It's 9931 Williamson Road, Meadville, PA. 16335. That's the occupied zone number. Department of Defense targeting. Okay, again, that's 9931 Williamson Road, Meadville, PA 16335. And as always, you can send it in the form of a check or you can send it in cash, but whatever you do, wrap it in foil so there's non-scrupulous types at the post office will not be able to scan what you're doing. I only have 5, but I've been told I will be able to get some more in the 1st of October. So first come, first serve, and if there's more than 5 that come in from the listening crowd, I will send your money back until I get the next batch, and then you can send them in. I'm not going to hold your money because I don't know if we're going to get them. Okay, because of the demand for 2020 stuff for Trump, I'm already starting to see gigantic price increases. So, if you want to help out, that's how you can do it. And also spread the word to everybody in your chat room or your likes on Facebook or Twitter or your tweets or whatever social media you use, and we're back on the air. And hopefully we'll be able to expand this as we get our web feet back underneath us. Anything you want to say, Bones? No comment from Bones. He's going looking for something to bludgeon. So on that point, folks, thanks for tuning in, and we will see you next week at the same time, the same bat channel.
I was just looking at you. Same bat time, same bat channel, yeah.
Same bad time, same bad channel. And the same big bats will be here. So, you can turn the mics off, we can unplug